I am California of the past.
I am California of the past.
I am California of the past.
My name is Diana York Blaine, and my family moved to Pomona in 1965 from the San Fernando Valley. My parents bought a Lewis home in North Pomona for $23,000, and I lived there with them and my two brothers. I attended the local elementary school, Montview, and had lots of friends in the neighborhood whose families represented a wide variety of ethnic backgrounds from Western and Eastern Europe. There were the Santillas up the street who opened Antonio's restaurant, which was a wildly popular establishment. And there were the Kellers across the way from me, and I played with their daughter Lori. There were the Pikes, who were from Hungary, and I remember Kathy Pike had a Hungarian grandmother who lived in her house and didn't speak any English. Around the corner were the Masakis. They were from Japan. That was really unusual at that time. And up the street from them were the Enriquezes. And Lydia Enriquez and I were friends at Montview, and she too had a grandmother that lived in her home and didn't speak English. She was from Mexico, and that was really unusual. I remember going over to Lydia's house and watching her grandmother pat out tortillas from scratch, and I was just fascinated. Around that time, in the mid-'60s, they had a heritage festival at our local mall where the Sears was, and all the little kids from the elementary schools were encouraged to come and parade around dressed like settlers from the colonial period or Indians or the Mexican era. And it was run by local adults that were promoting the establishments there at the mall and constructing a sense of Pomona's history. I remember Lydia Enriquez's grandmother sewing us costumes for that festival, and it was really quite a marvelous experience because she was just a brilliant seamstress. And we went to a fabric store and picked out this beautiful floral fabric, and then her grandmother made us these exquisite costumes from hand with no patterns that were meant to represent the colonial settler era of Pomona's history. I'd really never had anything so beautiful made for me, and I was quite proud of that costume. I remember the day of the parade, and I also remember a special moment where I believe we were given first place, which really seemed appropriate because those costumes were quite outstanding. I loved that outfit and enjoyed wearing it and remembering that lovely day on the mall. I have lots of photos from my history because my mother was the community information officer for the Pomona School District for 25 years, Nancy York. And so she was always taking photos as part of her job, and she was documenting every aspect of my life, including this trip when my first grade came to the Pomona Public Library. That's Mrs. Finley. She was my beloved first grade teacher. And so my mother came along to document it and then put it in the school newspaper. While my mother had lots of talents, including being a brilliant writer and a brilliant photographer, she was not much of a seamstress. So a few years later, when I re-entered the Pomona Fiesta del Valle, I was in an Indian costume of my mother's creation, and it was a rather homely and unlovely one. I didn't take any prizes that year, but I do want to thank my mom for all the wonderful things that she did for me. And I'd also like to thank Lydia Enriquez's grandmother.